Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Futurum Tech Webcast. This webcast is part of my Women in Tech interview series, and I'm excited to have a conversation today about the trend of everything as a service and end-to-end as a service that we're starting to see a lot of in the marketplace. And I'm equally excited to have as my guest today, Akanksha Mehrotra, the VP of Project APEX Marketing for Dell. And we're going to start talking about some research that Dell did around the COVID-19 pandemic and the global impact of a distributed workforce. And this includes not only serving thousands of employees working from home, which is probably a challenge that you and your organization are dealing with, but also the challenge of dealing with enterprise workloads, applications, services to the cloud, and of course, a pressing need for more agile and more scalable IT infrastructure to serve that distributed workforce. And that's really where end-to-end as a service or everything as a service plays an important role. So without further ado, Akanksha, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shelly. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your career and kind of the backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. I help lead marketing for Project APEX Solutions, like you pointed out, at Dell Technologies. I came to Dell a long time ago. I'm an electrical engineer by education. I've spent time across a variety of different roles at Dell, starting from hardware engineering to pricing, product line management, pre-sales, and somehow found my way into marketing, which is where I am now.
You know, all roads lead to marketing one way or another. In some way or another. Well, I'm a career marketing brand strategist, and I straddle that, career background with being a technology analyst. And I think that sometimes that helps me do what I do even more effectively because, it's great to have all kinds of solutions, but you have to figure out, how to effectively market that, bringing them to market, the right messaging, all of that really important.
It gives you that, having a strong technical foundation helps you. Right. Same thing with selling. Like once you've been selling, I think it gives you a perspective that unless you've been there, you never truly have. So.
Absolutely. I get it. So now let's talk a little bit about Project APEX. I know that Project APEX, I remember Project APEX being announced at the Dell Technologies World Experience. And this appears to me to be the expansion of consumption-based offering that Dell initially brought to market in about 2019, which seems like 100 million years ago, of course. And it's really all about simplifying how Dell Technologies customers can consume IT as a service. Am I right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and you're on the right track. So, like you said, Project APEX is our strategy to radically simplify an as-a-service experience for infrastructure for our customers and our partners. We announced it at Dell Technologies World last October, and it represents both a strategic as well as a transformational, shift for us as a company. Our goal with this is to deliver IT resources to our customers as a service through a simple and a consistent experience wherever they run their infrastructure. So within their data centers, in the public cloud, or increasingly at the edge. That in a nutshell is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, and I think that we see this with our clients across the board in every industry. That is a really important thing. And infrastructure needs are not going to get any less complicated. So being able to serve customers in that way, I think, is really important. So you mentioned that APEX delivers, in your word, a radically simplified experience. What are some examples of how you remove that complexity? And if you happen to have a customer use case story that you want to throw at me, I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah. So I'll answer this maybe in the construct of both some of the offers that'll be part of APEX as well as customer use cases. So there's several different elements to the simplicity that we're seeking to drive. It starts right from the beginning. So when we have that conversation with the customer about the type of infrastructure they're looking for, we'll simply ask them for the outcomes that they're looking for, right? What are you trying to do? So in a storage context, what type of storage are you looking for? What are your service level requirements? What workloads do you want to run on it? And then based on the answers that they give us, we will pick the underlying technology that's best suited to meet that need. Let me contrast that with a conversation, on over, let's say, traditional consumption or more of a product sale. There, we would ask them those questions, but then probably take them down well, is it this product, and which configuration of this product, which setting, et cetera, et cetera. So here we're trying to abstract all of that away from them and instead deliver to a particular outcome that we talk to them about at a service level requirement that they need for their applications, and then we pick the sort of underlying infrastructure that meets that.
Yeah, and the reality of it is, I mentioned I'm a strategist. So, starting with the goal and, letting your vendor partner, your trusted vendor partner help you figure out, how to reach that goal without really having to worry about all the tiny nuances that are involved there. I mean, I think what today's IT leaders are looking for are, we have a really complicated job.
Mm-hmm.
The more you can, as a vendor partner, work with us to help make our job less onerous and less complicated, and also how, you can really maximize investment on the spend for this. And I think to me that, that's what makes the as a service model so attractive. It's, you can scale up, you can scale back, you can really be agile, and you can really pivot without making huge investments in infrastructure that, in a year or 2 years you may not need. So I think to me, there's kind of a safety net there that makes a lot of strategic sense, a lot of business strategic sense.
Well, there's definitely simplicity in budget management, right? I mean, especially in the current environment where we're in, where customers may be cash constrained, they perhaps don't want to have sort of a, expensive cash outlay that's typically associated with buying technology up front, not knowing what's going to happen in 3 years. I mean, look what happened last year, right? Look what we're dealing with. So unpredictability has really come to the forefront, and being able to pay for technology as a subscription, being able to scale as you need it and only pay for what you're using is another way that customers are asking for, and another way of driving simplicity.
Well, I think we all learned a lot. I think 2020 taught us many lessons from a business standpoint, a business continuity, a business resilience standpoint, and from a personal standpoint, as, we sit talking from our home offices, right? We're the personification of a distributed workforce. Yes, I can say that. But I think that, in January of 2020, we would have never guessed where we would be. And so the lessons that has taught us is that you need to have a business structure and an infrastructure structure that can serve your business no matter what the circumstances. And I think, again, that those are valuable lessons that we've been learning very, very quickly. And so I think it's great that this is a timely offering from Dell, I believe. So and this really just kind of hits on, the next thing I was going to talk about is the growing interest in as a service for on-prem infrastructures. So, we know that now more than ever, this is important. So talk a little bit about what you're seeing as in terms of Dell Technologies customers looking to make this shift.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we talked about the trends, maybe some stats to kind of support those trends. So we recently did a study with several of our customers. 89% of the business leaders said they recognize the need for a more agile and more scalable IT infrastructure so that they could account for contingencies like the pandemic driving their entire workforce remote, right? That they hadn't obviously, planned for. The same study also said that only 41% of them felt like they had the right technologies to respond at the speed that the business needed them to. So clearly a key theme is this need for agility. Right. We already talked about the need to pay for technology as an operating expense. Again, I think with a lot of things, the pandemic has sort of catalyzed, exasperated, accelerated, use your favorite word, trends that were always there, right? But I think living in a sort of cash constrained environment, now they really want to pay for technology as an operating expense versus, paying for it upfront.
Right.
And then finally, and you talked about this, just the complexity that was probably always there in an IT environment, but again, it's become that much more it has increased that much more over the past year. We saw a lot of organizations turn to public cloud to quickly scale their infrastructure, but then these same customers tell us that it's not always a good fit for the workloads that they had, and they wanted. They want the security, the latency requirements, as well as the performance that on-prem affords them. And so managing these two pools of resources in two places adds complexity. And really, this is where, this is sort of the sweet spot for as a service for on-prem infrastructure, because it provides you that simple, scalable experience that IT organizations desire, along with the flexibility to run the workload where it makes sense.
Right.
In their data center, in the public cloud, at the edge, wherever it makes sense. And so, that's sort of why it's growing. You've probably seen the data just like I have from from analysts, and customers are agreeing with how they vote with their wallets.
Well, and I think it's also beyond just simply a wallet issue. I think that, specific to technology talent, specific to IT talent, I mean, there's a dearth of skilled IT laborers out there. And so it's a struggle for organizations to find and recruit and keep those employees. And so I think that I think that also kind of powers the as a service offerings that we see across the board, across the industry as a whole. It's like, a trusted vendor partner brings the expertise to the table that I need, that I may or may not have. And it allows me to do what I need to do when I don't quite have the IT team yet that I need, or maybe I already have an IT team, but they're busy with so many other things. So I think that's an important part of it.
To that point, exactly. One of the things we've noticed, and again, this is something that was there before, but we're seeing more of is, and we do this in Project APEX, is that we deploy and manage key portions of the tech stack.
Right.
Again, it was always an option before, but now increasingly customers want us to do it, right? Because it helps them, they want us to manage the infrastructure so that they can manage their business and focus on their business. And that brings a level of simplicity, but then to your point, it also frees up their resources to focus in other areas that are, perhaps directed at growing their business. So that's another one that I think is, with on-prem as a service, having the vendor manage the infrastructure for you wherever you need it, it helps offload both the risk as well as the burden of doing it.
It's really, to me, it's just all about smart business. And I think that, we joked a little bit about marketing or sales or IT. I think complexity spans an organization, regardless of the size of the organization. And I think that, in the past, it used to be relatively easy to kind of have the expertise that you needed to do to get all the things you needed to do done. And then, but as marketing has become more complicated, as IT has become more complicated, as infrastructure has become more complicated, I think it's really difficult to be an expert across all of that. And to me, again, this has nothing to do with my conversation with you, and you happen to be with Dell Technologies. The reality of the world today is that smart partnerships, trusted vendors who can really help understand what it is you're trying to accomplish and who can work together. Sometimes it's multiple vendor partners working together. That's really the path forward for businesses. And we're seeing that. I mean, we're seeing huge companies partner all the time. So I think this is just really kind of
strategic partners, right? So fewer partners that with whom you can have that strategic relationship with, so that they can really understand your pain points and help you resolve them. So that each business, if you will, can kind of focus on the area that they do best.
So we're not always reinventing the wheel. We're not always, and the other thing that having an as a service vendor partnership, the benefit to a customer is that, that vendor brings all of the experiences that they've already had with other customers who may be, all across the board. And so they can bring the lessons learned and the time saved and the resources saved to your situation, as opposed to, again, like We need to move away from the
one issue at a
yeah,
time, right?
yeah, and we don't need to
At a
reinvent the
time,
wheel.
one source at a time. Yeah, no.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that brings me to, let's talk about, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer offer, but, so why is Dell Technologies doubling down on as a service? Obviously, there's a need.
Yeah, there's a need. I mean, look, in short, we're responding to customer feedback. We've talked a lot about that feedback already. Our customers tell us that IT operations are very complex. They want us to help them kind of decomplexify them. They're looking for an experience that gives them what they love about public cloud, but also what they need in on-premises, and they want us as their vendor to help them kind of with that sort of best of both worlds, or build a bridge, if you will. And so these are the pain points that Project APEX is designed to address.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. So tell me how you think this is different than what Dell Technologies has already been doing around as a service, because there is a slight difference, I think.
There absolutely is. But before that, you're right. We've done this before for many of our customers for many years, actually. In fact, if you look, I think in Q3 we said, if you look at our recurring revenue, that's comprised of deferred revenue amortization, utility, as well as a service. So these types of models, it's a broader category, but these types of models, it's about $6 billion already, and it's growing at a pretty healthy clip. So we've done it for a while, right? I think the difference with Project APEX is that we want to scale this to customers of all sizes and capabilities, frankly, right? That's kind of difference number one. Difference number two is we want to dramatically simplify the experience for them. In some cases, simple enough to where it can be self-service. Because when you are, part of our top 100 accounts, we've probably done this for you in partnership with you. But then to your point, you also have a different resource profile, a different talent profile,
right?
Within your four walls of your data center. And so some of this complexity you can deal with, right? Versus if you are a smaller business or a mid-sized business or one that's much more distributed, you're looking for a different experience. So I think with Project APEX, we're trying to, the offers that you'll see coming out as part of this, we want to bring it to customers of all sizes. This is what we mean by radical simplification. Simple enough to where it can be self-service for the customer. We announced something called the Cloud Console that they can use, over time to make it self-service. And so, I think those are some of the differences this time around, and combine that with our long leadership in services and supply chain and scale and innovation. To your point, all the things that we've done for a while makes me optimistic that we can build on that strong foundation, but then take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I think as consumers, we are learning, we're learning to do a lot of things for ourselves. And in some ways we have a preference, and it's like, I have to call somebody or I have to schedule a meeting or I have to do something, as opposed to just being able to navigate to a web interface and, do what I need to do. If I need help, maybe there's a chat, whatever, if I actually need a person, I can get a person, but maybe I don't need a person. And I think that
I'm that way. I'll go to great lengths to not talk to somebody.
I will go to great lengths to not talk to people. And I'm in the communication business. But it's kind of like I've been laughing about the grocery checkout at the supermarket. And my teenagers are club volleyball players, and I drop them off at volleyball practice at 8:00 in the evening. And I go next door to a grocery store, and I love to shop there because nobody's ever there at 8:00 at night. So it's awesome. I have the place to myself. But and I'm also a student of human behavior. And what I notice is that, there are like 3 employees in this gigantic store, because what they've done is they have customer self-checkout. 90% of customers just check themselves out. They don't care. They want to sack their own bags. They don't care. But I think that's what's happening I don't need somebody to do these things for me, whether it's at the grocery store or whether it's doing my IT job. So I think that's really interesting. And I think that we're also teaching people, like the grocery store is teaching people to check yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we're teaching people with web interfaces like this, like the Cloud Console offering, is that it's super easy. It's right here. If you want to do it yourself, it's
Yeah.
here. It's easy. And if you don't want to, that's okay too, because we're here
Yeah.
to support you. But I think we're seeing a lot of this. So I think that's kind of a
Well,
good.
that's a high bar, right? It's a much higher bar than when you have, when it is in self-service and you've got an army of folks
Right.
that can help deliver that experience. So I think that's why it's both an opportunity for us to make it that simple to where it can be self-service for our customers if they so choose.
Well, I think it's also really attractive, and it's really attractive to hear that this offering is designed not just at the enterprise level for customers at the enterprise level. So because it really is, Dell Technologies has a lot of customers, I'm sure, or potential customers who aren't at the enterprise level. So to be able to have this level of service without being a gigantic company, I think is a really cool opportunity for a lot of organizations out there. So, as we wrap this conversation up, I have one final question. This is really kind of a big shift
Yeah.
for Dell Technologies, and what do you think describe for me what you think this means for the company as a whole?
Yeah, look, you're right. I mean, this is that's why I said it's both a strategic as well as a transformational shift for us, right? Because it changes, when you think about it from the viewpoint of I want to make it a self-service, simple experience to meet all of the pain points we talked about. It changes everything end to end. It changes, how we design and build our products as a service, not product and services separately, but our products as a service.
Right.
How we deliver those services end to end. As I said, with some of these offers, we'll be managing big portions of the stack, everything from that initial deployment to ongoing patching to decommissioning at the very end. So, it changes things in that kind of flow, if you will. How we evolve our go-to-market, our sales teams, the addition of customer success teams, how they work with each other, how do we work with the customer, those that want to use self-service and those who want to, work with their sales rep. So it changes a lot of things. There's a lot of work that's happening within the company on this. We're all in, we're committed, but again, these are all the things that also makes it very exciting. Because it's there's aspects of it, if you will, that are new and different, and it's certainly lots of opportunities for innovation. So, you'll hear more from us at the Dell Technologies world of the progress. We talked about how, look, this is going to be a multi-year journey for us.
Right.
We announced a few things in October. You'll hear more on it from us over our next few events. But at the end of the day, we're building on a strong foundation. We've been there, done that in a variety of different ways. We've been a market leader in the space for a really long time. So I'm optimistic about the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it sounds great. So just to clarify, can someone go to the Project APEX site right now and buy this service, sign up, get more information? Where are we in the rollout of this? That's my question.
Yeah. So there's and it's a great question. So we announced we announced the project as a multi-year transformation for us, and then we announced several offers as part of that that are in various stages. So the Cloud Console that I talked about, which is that single web interface that customers can use to navigate their entire infrastructure journey. Aspects of it are in public preview right now. So customers are signing up, they're testing it, they're giving us feedback, we're evolving on that feedback. Another offer we announced was storage as a service. Again, it's in various beta stages right now. It's expected to be generally available in the first half of this year. So,
great.
I would say to sort of net it out there in various trial stages, and you'll hear more from us later this year and more.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that. And I know that the analyst relations team at Dell Technologies will keep me updated on that. Akanksha, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating. I love everything about Dell Technologies Project APEX. I can't wait to see more about this and see as you roll out and hear what people have to say. But most importantly, thanks for spending time with me today. And we both managed to make it through this webcast without either groups of our children
Yes.
interrupting us. I
Yeah.
mean,
Once they listened to me, I told them between these hours, please don't come into my
we made it. We made it happen, and
Yes.
neither of my dogs managed to have a barkathon. So it's really a red letter day.
Yeah.
So with that,
It
I think
is.
I think we're going to say we've had great luck. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to talking with you again soon as things develop with Project APEX. And you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to you, and thank you to your listeners.